Hello, this is Greg Allison with Green Griggs coming to you on the 9th of March, 2021. Time on deck is 1600 hours Central Standard Time. Ladies and gentlemen, I got to ask you, what happened to Russia's missing 100 nukes? Okay, Greg, you got to be kidding me. There can't be 100 nukes missing in Russia. Well, yes, actually, these are backpack nuclear devices, and they are reported by, or were reported by, Russian National Security Advisor Alexander Lebed. He claimed that Russia had actually lost track of up to 100 nuclear suitcase bombs. And mind you, the tactical purpose of these bombs was to place them in enemy territories covertly and then set them off in the case that you were about to have a conflict. So suddenly you'd have all kind of detonations going off, and these were not really there to target cities. They were there to target strategic targets such as dams, key major large bridges, major infrastructure items. But 100 of them, well, they might have had a whole lot of targets. 100 missing? They had 100 missing. How many did they have? Where were they? And where are they today? Holy smoke. Sounds incredible. We're going to go in this because we're going to talk about it from several different aspects. I'm going to show you similar devices that Americans have had. Can't exactly show you the Russian devices, but we had devices that are comparable to these. Now, these devices were reputed to be 1,000 kilotons of TNT. Now, that is like 1,000 tons of TNT. Bear in mind that 1 ton of TNT was a payload of the V-2 rocket that would take out a city block. 1,000. Yeah, this is a very serious device. Yeah, it might have been aimed for power plants. Yeah, with 100 of them missing. Holy smoke, guys. So I bring these things to you so you'll know that we really do need to prepare. I hope that this is not true. I hope that this is not the case, but it could be. And so where are they? Like I said, this is all about you keeping your eyes wide open and head on a swivel, because that's what I bring you these stories for. So you will keep that. And it's part of my commitment to you to keep you informed. Now, along those lines, I would say I'll bring a lot of these videos on to you about keeping your eyes wide open and head on a swivel. What's going on in the world that you can share with your friends and family so that they can also get in tune with this idea of prepping. That's what this is for. And so you'll really reinforce your case on it too. Now, that in mind, since I bring these videos to you, I also show you how to grow your own food, which will be critical in many catastrophes. I also cover things like how to eat from the weeds and the trees, which are free. But I also cover other things. Now, what I want you to do is subscribe to my channel, bang the notification bell, and click all so that you will be able to get my future videos on this, share them widely so people will know this, but also to help you prepare. There's other things. I have a really good special right now. This special is about 20% off 25-year long storage food. You can get, it lasts 25 years. Now, you can get 4-week supply, 2 of these for a little better than 20% off. Go to prepwithgregs.com, or you can get 1 of them, which is a 2-week supply, which is 1 bucket. 2 buckets is 4-week supply. The 1 bucket is a little less than 20% off, but the average is about 20% off. Go to prepwithgreg.com. And I got to tell you, and the links are below in the channel notes, show notes, and also in the pin notes. I always put that stuff. And guys, this is good stuff. It's flexible. You can throw it in your backpack if you need to bug you out on a backpack, or listen, go to your boat, car. You can bury it in the ground. They're easy to carry, lightweight, because this is dehydrated. No, it's not dehydrated. It's freeze dried. So it's got the, which is a dehydration process. It is real food. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, 2,000 calories a day. Get that, and you'll be a winner. All right, let's move on and talk about it. So that might I do to show you things that you can get for free. But, you know, it's a lot of greens, and so you're going to need the carbs. You're going to need meat and protein. They have protein packages. They have veggie packages for you vegetarians. If you want to get, you know, other dietary concerns, just go to the My Place of Supply logo on prepwithgreg.com. Click that logo. It'll take you into all kind of options of number 10 cans and different things. You can get years and years and years of storage of food. You can get other kind of prep supplies, all kind of stuff there, which would come in handy should such some devices like we're talking about come into play should they fall into the hands of terrorists and give us a really bad day. So I'm going to do a share. I'm going to show you some of these articles here, guys. Boom. All right, this is the article that came out in the National Interest. Now, this just came out recently. Suddenly, there was a whole spate of articles about this recently. Now, I have actually talked about this in previous articles. I think I went into some detail talking with Dr. Peter Pry, and also perhaps with inventor Lee Wilbarger. You probably heard me bring up some of these backpack, suitcase type nuclear weapons. And national interest cares a lot of interest in stories here. And so here is your Alexander Lebed, who reported this. And so, well, this was published actually by the National Threat Institute in September 1997. That's when they published it. My friends, I knew about this over 2 years earlier. I knew about this back in, I'd say, the winter of 94, 95, because the time I worked for a company called Bowden Industries, and I used to listen to this guy right here on the radio while I was, working in my office late when nobody else was in it, because I worked all kind of crazy hours doing electrical design, electrical controls and power design for industrial parts washing equipment there for about a year. I was totally commercial there, doing electrical things then, industrial electrical stuff. And Barry Farber was one of the early pioneers, one of the early deans of conservative radio. And he was a very decent, nice talking man. He was a master of about 25 languages. And he had some really interesting guests, include some high-level military people who were telling him back 2 years before that was published about these loose nukes, the backpack bombs. And I found that very interesting. Barry Farber just passed away recently. He was a Jewish man born in South Carolina. He had a long history of family from the South Carolina area. Even though but he was actually in New York. That's where he was operating from, and he was the inspiration for guys like Sean Hannity, according to Sean Hannity. But this was, Barry Farber was a whole lot less sharp-edged than some of the modern commentators. He was a real easygoing guy, but he definitely was. But he had actually started out liberal. He had switched over the years. That's what happens when sometimes you have certain life experiences make you think of certain things. I myself made that switch in high school. All right. It took a few years for it to all grow entirely on me. I was still somewhat liberal after I got out of high school, just not as. But by the time I got in the Army, yeah, it kind of morphed. All right, so let's go back to this. Yeah, pardon the ads there. So yeah, we've heard a lot about stories about missing nuclear materials, weapons. As many of you know, the Soviet Union, when they collapsed, a lot of their places weren't secure. I've heard that sometimes all they had was a barbed wire fence. Sometimes they didn't have things locked. There was no guards on some of the facilities, and that caused a lot of alarm. It was the people are afraid that because their stuff was so wide open, unsecured, they had so much of it, like including 27,000 nuclear weapons, along with enough weapons grade uranium plutonium to build 3 times more weapons. 27,000 nuclear weapons and weapons grade material that's already enriched, enough to build 3 times more than that. In a country that after the wall fell, they were starving. They were poor as dirt. They were starving. And yet there was a huge demand in the international market for these kind of goods. Why? What do you think? There was a huge demand. Let me show you a little thing about demand, guys. And I'm going to use hydraulic pressure as an example. So you got a lot of supply on one side and very little supply on the other side. Well, the difference between here and here in hydraulic systems is called head. That's this height right here. That's the head height. Because the greater this distance, the more pressure there is on this system to get to there. I mean, this water will flow through here at higher pressure, the greater this head distance. It's like current flowing through a wire. The more voltage you got, the more current you get. It's the same thing. You get the same thing in economics, where you've got a high supply on one end and a high demand on the other end. there's good prices that you can make on this stuff here. These people were poor. Some of these people, there were, there were some rich nations, some rich terrorist groups, that had been enriched by oil and other things on this side, who really wanted what was over here. The only thing that kept what was here, the going here, is the resistance between them. Resistor and electrical current, concrete and a dam until it breaks, and like an earthen dam maybe. But the penstock, that's your wire. So the more head, the faster the turbine's going to turn, the more power you're going to get out of this system, because you've got more current of water, current of electricity and electrical system. Economics, electricity, water, there are laws of physics that apply to everyday things in human society. High demand, low demand, supply and demand. Supply over here, demand over here. That's how you can make good trades. Anytime you've got a good supply and somebody else has a big demand, and if you can lower the bars of resistance between you and them and make the sales, bada bing, bada bang, that's where you make money. That's just the way it works. Well, that condition existed in spades when the Soviet Union fell. There were people that were starving. There were people that sold, that tried to sell nuclear materials just to buy a refrigerator. Maybe there's a lot of people out there who are sociopaths, and there's at least 2 in 100 sociopaths, psychopaths. These are people who don't have empathy. Hey, I'm hungry. I want something nice. I want a nice car, a nice refrigerator, a nice apartment. They can make a lot of money making a sale like that. They don't take many bad eggs when there's lack security. See, what happened is you had a high supply, high demand, but this went away. Okay, that's what we're talking about. So even if there's not 100 nuclear nukes, loose nukes from these backpack devices, I'm going to show you some of these, as claimed by Russia's national security advisor back in the day. Russia's national security advisor, Alexander Lebed, he made this claim. Now, Russia later refuted it. Of course they would, like, oh my God, don't tell the world that. We don't want them thinking we caused that to happen. And maybe Russia was right. And he was not. But why did he make this claim? There's a mystery here. But that claim that was published here by the Nuclear Threat Initiative wasn't the only claim made to that effect. And that's how Barry Farber picked up on this stuff earlier. There were other talks of this. It was kind of getting around. So, but look here, dead USSR missing nuclear weapons. We know they did lose a couple weapons, but the stockpiles, this talks about all the fear, and it says that there were reportedly more than 100 nuclear smuggling incidents since 1993, 18 of which involved highly enriched uranium. That's the ones they caught. Do you think they caught everything? We could hope and pray, but when in the smuggling history of drugs or any other material, did we catch everything? Did we catch half? Probably not. Probably not. Does that mean that that's much highly enriched uranium got loose? What got loose? I've told y'all before in other videos that I was told that when the wall fell, that 2 complete nuclear missiles with nuclear warheads went from Kazakhstan to Iran. 2. That was the intel I got way back here in the early 90s when the wall fell. So this Nuclear Threat Initiative was referring to this stuff. It's got up on 60 Minutes way back then. And here's again, they suggested these weapons were 1 kiloton. This is similar to our W4 backpack nuke that the United States had, which was 1 kiloton. So Russia kind of denied it, as I said. Bada bing, bada bang. So yeah, it could have been a bada bang, but we don't know. But even if this isn't true, this is true. There was a huge supply of nuclear materials, including nuclear bombs. The security was somewhat lax. There was a huge profit motive, and the supply was on the side of people who were starving, and the other guys out there, they had lots of money. Did something transact? Where's that stuff at today if it did? Got a bomber flying around here. All right. Micro bomber, a robot, little drone. So explain that stuff. Hang on, guys. These tabs are fighting me. Here we go. This is America's suitcase nuclear device. These things existed. They were real. We made them ourselves. This one is the MK-54. It was also called the W-54. SADM. Special Atomic Demolition Munition. That's what SADM stuff for. SADM. It is kind of sad. Saddam Hussein. Special Atomic Demolition Munition. And it talks about a whole family of these devices here that were to be delivered by special forces. The maximum yield of the W4 warhead, the Special Atomic Demolition Munition, was 1 kiloton, 1,000 tons. The same as the suitcase, so-called suitcase bombs, which are probably backpack devices like this, that Russia claims to have lost, or at least Alexander Libet. Again, he was a very high official in the system. So maybe he just felt like it was time to make an admission. So you see, guys, these things exist, but that's not all that existed. Look here. The W-48 was a little bit smaller. This was nuclear artillery. And this device could yield 72 tons of TNT, not 1,000. The 72, that's like 72 V2 rockets. Yeah, that's not trivial either by a long shot. This was intended to be used originally with wars against North Korea or Russia as nuclear artillery. And we just retired this stuff in 1992 under Clinton. Pardon me. So, how about that? And there's more. If I can get my cursor up here. There we go. The Davy Crockett. I'm sure a lot of you heard this Davy Crockett M28, M29. See, this guy had a much smaller yield of 10 to 20 tons. But that's still 10 to 20 B-2 rockets, guys. But this is a recoilless rifle. Now, me, when I think recoilless rifle, I think of a bazooka. This looks like a tripod-mounted bazooka. That's really what it is. Or you might think of it almost like a nuclear rifle grenade. So it's not a rifle. It's a recoilless gun. Again, it's more like a bazooka, just a tripod bazooka. Yeah, it might be a little bit more than you could balance on your shoulder because that sucker is heavy. Really, really, really heavy. I think it's on the order of about 100 pounds probably. So let's see, what's it say here? Yep, 108.5 pounds. You had some hefty troops carrying these things around, right? Backpacks. There's a guy preparing to launch. And I've seen video of these things, going off and the troops out there in the field watching them. Well, the United States has lost a few nuclear weapons. We do know of a couple the Russians have lost, but we don't know how much. But we reportedly, we don't know of any that we've lost in 50 years. But then all the reports of these losses didn't come out immediately. Some of these were buried for years. So what could be out there? Who knows? I mean, some of these are here in the United States, and some of them are out at sea. They're all over the place. Here they are. I'm not going to go into all of these specifically. As you might know, there was the ones that kind of concern me. This is probably the worst case. Less than a year old, January 24th, 1961. Somewhere near Goldsboro, North Carolina, a uranium core is buried in the field. It has been one of the cores of a pair of 24 megaton, 24,000. This is a huge. I mean, today our warheads are about 2 megatons that we would attack with. So this is like 12 times higher than what we put on our MIRV missiles. This is a big bomb. 24 megaton bombs that were on a B-52 that crashed shortly after takeoff. Well, they found one of these bombs. What they found was 3 out of 4 of the arming devices were actually armed on it. That scared them. They couldn't. The other one buried up in the mud. They don't know where it is. So somewhere near Goldsboro, North Carolina, And buried deep in the mud, maybe with 3 out of 4 devices armed, is a ginormous 24 megaton nuclear bomb. Is it going to go off? Well, it's been there for 60 years. Yeah, it's been there for 60 years now, guys. Probably not, because I would say the trigger mechanism is shot now. But holy smoke. Could somebody find it and dig it up? I hope not. I imagine that place is under guard. Yeah, good fat chance doing that. But these are the ones we know about. Those are the ones we know. I'm going to stop this year. So the point. How many of those devices did they have out there? Where were they to start with? How did they lose them? How did they lose them? Because they weren't directly under control. They weren't in the field, probably. And when things were called back, they probably had trouble extracting them and not getting caught extracting them. They were prepositioned. They're here. Or they got sold and moved. Some of them. That's likely. It could be. It could be. Sold and moved. Who bought them? Who controls them? Where did they go? Now, the triggers that were on will be decrepit by now. The nuclear triggers usually wear out. But there are smart guys out there who, the Iranians know how to make them. There's guys that can make triggers. What could these things do? Well, they could create quite an EMP. I would say the ideal super weapon is probably 200 or 300 megatons, like the bigger bombs that North Korea set off, not the kilotons bombs. Yeah, and maybe even more like a Hiroshima bomb, 15 kilotons. Why? Because the smaller devices have less radiation shielding. With less radiation shielding, more gamma rays escape initially at explosion. It's the gamma rays that cause the electric field shock wave in the atmosphere that strip the electrons from the atoms that causes your EMP event. So you can have some very terrible EMP devices. You could have devices that could take out very critical infrastructure in the United States. I mean, we're talking really powerful devices, really powerful. They would take out key infrastructure items and then some, quite a bit of area around them at that size. So they're not the strategic nuclear weapons that would be 15 kilotons like we use against Japan, up to a couple megatons, like a lot of the ones that have been built to target. But that is huge. Huge. Why? Where? When? Will we ever see them again? Let's pray not. Let's pray not. But always hope for the best and prepare for the worst. One of these things going off probably won't be the end of the world. Several of them going off would be, any of them going off would be horrible. It could be that somebody's just waiting. Just waiting for something. Maybe not. But there's been so much other material got out there. Where did it go? Did they really catch it all? I don't know. Let's hope they did. Or let's hope the guys that got it don't even know what to do with it. Or maybe they lost it. So maybe it's in that warehouse with the Ark, from the Raiders of the Lost Ark, right? Where is it? Where is it? There's a zillion boxes. So I don't know, guys. I do know that we live in scary times. Tensions are ratcheting up. It's when tensions ratchet up that people are more likely to do the unthinkable. Especially when people have nothing left to lose, they lose it. And when they lose it, we all can all lose, big time. So these things can be out there. They can be a huge threat. They can be anywhere or nowhere. They may not exist. That's our hope. But when a national security advisor tells you that they're out there, you got to wonder. You got to say, it's possible. And he wasn't the only source. So there you go. We know they had them. It said they had them pre-positioned. They probably had a hard time pulling them back. And yet, even though they had a hard time pulling them back, they probably had a huge market value. The guys controlling it, not wanting to get caught trying to smuggle it out. Just, hey, maybe they found a good buyer. Sleeper cells here in the United States. We'll talk about sleeper cells in the future Iranian topic. We'll bring that back up. Yeah, they're here. And they're not, the Iranian sleeper cells are not the only ones. Wow. Okay, guys. Okay, guys. That said, you know, wars can have consequences beyond things that we imagine. We may think we know how it's going to go down, but you know, the other guys can have an ace up their sleeve, or 2 or 3 or 100. So you don't know exactly what they're going to play and how they're going to play it, what their things are going to be. You may have the greatest plans. You know exactly what you're going to do, and you're going to do this, 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 and this. But when it all starts, it's really messy. Your plans seldom get executed the way you laid them out. Seldom. So D-Day was one of the most masterful war plans ever. But you know, these things, wow, yeah, that's why we got to worry. That's why you got to be prepared. But be prepared, not scared. Don't panic. Don't lose your head, or you might lose your head. Because you need to be able to think in a crisis situation. And these devices, as bad as they are, like I said, may not be the end of the world. Instead of take down our power grid, you know, that would do us more damage than taking out bridges. Bridges would be bad. It would cut a lot of our transportation. Power plants, that would be power grid. Soda stations. Okay, guys, let's hope it's not true, but get ready. Just be prepared. That is my message. And I'll bring it to you another way. Share it with other people. And, oh, yeah, I've not done any videos hardly in a week. I've been busy. I've had many things hitting me between work, personal things, trying to get my greenhouse fixed. I'll do a little bit of video on that. And working on a website for the Freedom Restoration Foundation. It's actually up, but I haven't got it quite where I want it yet. So I'll be showing you a video on it really soon. So come to, yeah, if you're not subscribed to my channel, subscribe, bang the notification bell, and click all so you can see these things when I release them and other things. I'll be doing greenhouse videos soon on my greenhouse repairs too, which reminds me it's planting season. Go to Trade Market and buy your seeds now. Get them while they're getting good. Right now is the time you need to be setting out seeds in your greenhouse as soon as you can. So go ahead and order them, because you know it takes a little bit just for them to get to you. Order them, especially if there's bat loss. Order them now. All right, folks. With all that said, sorry it's been so long, and thank you very much for watching.